In the order, Oromocto Council and Committee meeting, 5:30 p.m. at the Oromocto Municipal Building. It's Wednesday, April 9th, 2025. I'll call for a mover for approval of the agenda. Deputy Mayor Momwini, seconder, Councilor Daw. Questions? In favor? Contrary? Motion carried. We've got two presentations tonight. We're going to start with 3A, the circular materials recycling, and it's going to be virtual. And can you hear us? So it's Tim Smith, Marcel Casey, and Nadine Duguay-Lemay. So the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Your Worship. Hi, councillors. It is nice to see you all virtually. Allow us to just briefly introduce us. You've done so, but just Marcel Casey, Senior Operations Manager for New Brunswick. And joining us as well is the Faro Recycling and Waste team. I'll let perhaps Daron and his team introduce themselves very quickly.
Good evening, folks. It's Tim Smith, Branch Manager with Faro in Fredericton here.
Yeah, and it's Rob Fallon, Operations Manager.
Darren Merriweather and I look after our operations for the whole province.
Excellent. And so Marcel and I will be leading the presentation this evening, but we did ask for Faro, since they are an integral part and partner for us, to be there, especially for the questions period. And so without further ado, I will share my screen so you can see the presentation, which I believe you've received a copy just beforehand. So just bear with me 1 second as I share my screen. Apologies. You're going to see probably a bunch of stuff you're not supposed to. That's why we have some tech people doing this typically for us. Hold on. I'm going to get there. Maybe actually I'll stop sharing and make sure I have it properly on the screen. How's that? There we go. And there we go. Apologies. Okay, so you can see this?
Yep.
All right. Oh, what did I do? Resume share. There we go. All right, we got her. I'm so sorry. All right, so this evening we're going to cover, of course, the Extended Producer Responsibility Program for Packaging and Paper, and more importantly, what it means for the town of Oromocto. So we're going to cover, of course, a brief background about circular materials, talk about the implementation plan for recycling in the town of Oromocto, our promotion and education plan. We'll talk briefly about the May 1st event coming up very quickly, and then we'll do a wrap up and enable some questions from you guys. Please let me know if I go too quickly. I'm just very, very conscious that you are very busy people and limited time. So Circular Materials is a national not-for-profit organization that's created and governed by producers, right? Our goal, really, our mandate is to support producers in meeting their obligations under EPR regulations across Canada. And what we do is basically build efficient and effective recycling systems in order to advance innovation, increase performance, and of course, deliver improved environmental outcomes. You can see some of our founders here, which are really known brand owners, retailers, and manufacturers of packaging and paper. EPR, in short, what it is, right? You hear us say this all the time. It is a policy approach in which producers, so meaning the businesses that supply the packaging and paper to residents, are operationally and financially responsible for the end-of-life management of the materials that they supply to consumers. EPR is growing across Canada, and many jurisdictions are moving into this framework. We are helping producers, as we've said, in meeting their obligation under each jurisdiction's EPR regulation, New Brunswick being the jurisdiction in concern this evening. So as you can see, that EPR is gaining momentum across Canada. You will see another slide where we talk about circular materials managing some of these jurisdictions, but you can see that really the pendulum is going towards either shared or full EPR model. This year in 2025, circular materials is rolling out Alberta, Nova Scotia, and the Yukon. So it's a big year. What does it mean for New Brunswick? Of course, is that again, we are responsible for managing the recycling of packaging and paper to household. And this, of course, includes, multifamily dwellings, public space, schools, as well as curbside recycling. EPR is recognized as one of the most effective ways to improve recycling rates by returning, these materials for reuse in new products or new packaging. Very proud that New Brunswick was the first Atlantic province to transition to this framework in 2023. And of course, this year, our program is expanding to include all communities, including, so Oromocto being one of them, to the curbside collection, thereby completing this phase, multifamily dwellings, schools, as well as public space coming very soon. So now I'll turn it over to Marcel Kessie to talk about the implementation plan in Oromocto.
Thank you, Nadine. So basically, the residents of Oromocto that are part of the community transitioning to the curbside recycling will begin on May 1st this year. So our recycling collector is Ferro Recycling and Waste, has been assigned to this region. The residents who are previously receiving recycling will transition to a new schedule from monthly to biweekly. The idea here is to harmonize the whole system of this region. The system that we're going to be using will be a dual stream box, which separates material into two categories: the gray box for the paper and cardboard, and the blue box for the plastic, metal, and milk containers. The glass, the flexible, and the white polystyrene are not accepted curbside, so we need to bring these to a redemption center near you, and the URL here can directly to that.
Sorry, Marcel, I was going too quick here. This is the URL.
No, that's fine.
Sorry.
The residents will be receiving the new box beginning, I do believe it's April 21st.
Yes, sorry, forgot to change that date.
No. The promotion and education plan material have been shared. Most information is provided in the P&E in the section in a few minutes. Stakeholders engagement meeting have been ongoing and will continue up to the transition date. Now we're going to talk about the implementation plan for the schools and multifamily dwellings. The multifamily buildings not currently receiving a recycling service can participate in the program. That is because some multifamily dwellings are already part of the program, part of the residential collection program. This is a voluntary basis, and future multifamily dwellings and school wishing to participate in the program can register via our registry, online registry, which on the right here we have the URL, which is circularmaterials.ca/NB multifam or /NB schools.
The program is free to these buildings.
Yes. Correct. Thanks, Nadine. So through our service provider, through Ferro, Circular Material will offer the following service, recycling service, collecting the recyclable materials. We will supply the appropriate outdoor collection receptacles, and we will provide the promotional and educational material to share the best recycling practice. And back to you, Nadine.
Excellent. Maybe I'll just pause here, counselors, and ask if you wish to wait at the end for questions or answers, or did you have some already for us?
I think probably we'll wait till the presentation's over and.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. And so regarding promotion and education, when we were mentioning that these were distributed, is that we did create an Oromocto designated webpage, which you see right now. I do know I've been working closely with staff from the town of Oromocto, which have been all fantastic to work with. I want to compliment everyone. They've just been outstanding. John and his team have really led the way here. And so we've shared those digital assets, and some printed versions will be handed with the bin distribution on the 21st. So what Faro does is basically they stack the bins. They put the promotional material, which would include a brochure about meet your new bins that you see at the top here. It would include, of course, a recycling guide, a recycling calendar that is applicable for both Oromocto and Oromocto First Nation. And then we have a redemption center brochure that we give to residents just so they know these materials, please take them to a redemption center near you. So those are stacked, and then they put the gray lid over the box to protect the material. So that would be the package that each resident will be receiving. And then, of course, we can provide additional copies to the municipal office because understanding that sometimes residents will ask for extra copies or will say, I've lost mine. And Faro also always has extra copies on hand. And of course, we will start some promotion on Facebook and Instagram on Meta channels to amplify and let residents know that recycling is coming. But I have seen already the Oromocto town has been doing great on social media and pushing the word out there. And if there are any suggestions from this council on further promotion that you would like us to do, certainly open to doing that. Of course, from a timeline perspective, so we have shared all of this on early March, right? Some printed copies to be available very soon. Then that targeted advertising I was talking about on Facebook and Instagram, that's going to be geo-targeted to the residents of Oromocto. And then we're going to send some reminders very soon, as well as, that material to be distributed with the bins as discussed. So, and then, of course, on May 1st, we encourage you to follow, again, our social media calendar that we have shared with town staff and to participate in our event taking place at the Oromocto Hazen Center. And which brings us to that event. I believe I have shared an invitation with each counselor. We have received also a list of other individuals that are part of, I believe, a committee on environment. So they have received an invite as well as staff to attend. We have a lot of representatives from our national team coming to this event. Our CEO, Alan Langdon, will be in attendance, as well as Managing Director for Atlantic Canada. So we're expecting well over 100 people to be there, and we're very grateful to the town of Oromocto to host us at the Hazen Park Center. Hopefully you've all received an invite and you'll be able to attend. And so really, in closing, we appreciate the support that the town of Oromocto has given us. It's been great working with you. We hope for a smooth rollout. And at this time, really, if you have any questions, you know how to reach us, but you can always reach out to MB Operations at circularmaterials.ca, or you have, the staff certainly has Marcel and I's email, and I'm sure Faro will be happy to share theirs as well. So maybe we'll just pause here and entertain some questions.
Future comments, Council? Deputy Mayor Maloney?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for your presentation. It was very informative. Very quick question. I noticed that it said something about multi-residential units, about schools. What about churches? Churches who currently would have pickup on the side for their garbage through Faro, will they also get a box for recycling as well?
Unfortunately, the mandate is basically for residential. Churches that are considered commercial, so we are not responsible to collect recycling from churches.
Okay, thank you. And the other comment, the other thing I have is just a comment. I'm very impressed by the organization and by the information which is going out to all of the residents in terms of the different pieces of information for which you've outlined. So I just want to thank you for your thoughtful for your thoughtfulness in the process, and I think it's going to give a lot of great information to our residents. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that comment, Councillor. Much appreciated.
Councillor Dow?
Thank you. In your presentation, when you identified the gray bins, the black bins, the brochures going inside, you referenced a lid on top. Will the bins have lids?
The gray box, which is for fiber. So paper and cardboard does have a lid because we do not want the paper and the fiber content to get wet. The blue box, however, for containers does not have a lid. So I believe, Duran, if I recall correctly, and maybe you want to chime in here, you basically stack like, you know, the gray within the blue and put the PNE with the lid on top.
That is correct. The blue bin and the gray bin, material in the cover.
Yes.
Thank you. And can you identify flexible plastic?
Marcel, can you give some examples?
So basically, flexible plastic is your chip bag. Basically candy wrappers, garbage bags. The blue garbage bag is flexible plastic. Basically, plastic that is not like the your pop bottle is a different type of plastic. So it's basically a lot of when you go to the Loblaw or Sobeys, you'll buy fruit. On the side, you have a roll of small bags. Those are flexible plastics also.
So the container that the fruit comes in is recyclable?
Sorry, Councillor, can you repeat?
The container that, i.e. the grapes come in are recyclable?
So the bags, like for the grapes and stuff.
I do believe the container, if it's a solid container that I think you're purchasing, yes, that is recyclable. I know that grape sometimes comes in a plastic bag. That's a flexible plastic.
Perfect.
Councillor, perhaps I could add that on our website, we have a dedicated URL for Redemption Center, and it does have a list of materials that residents can click on and can see the full list. Obviously, it's a bit challenging, right, to communicate, like, here are all the examples in a brochure, but that list of materials is certainly comes in handy. And we are planning to roll out a recycling specific app in the capital region, for which the town of Oromocto, of course, would benefit from by the end of the year. So that would also help with sorting and what kind of materials do I put where.
And one last little query, only because it would be something that I would notice. When you said across Canada, right? PEI, interesting, isn't on the list.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. So each province is reviewing their designated materials regulation. PEI is still quiet, even though we know that they've certainly been leaders as far as recycling goes. But it doesn't mean that they're not coming on board at one point. We know that Newfoundland and Labrador is currently looking at its reg, and so we're expecting it's going to be the next Atlantic province to transition, and PEI then would be the last one. But great observation on your part, yes.
Quebec is not on there either, which is interesting.
Quebec is actually led by a partner of ours, Éco-entreprise, Marcel?
Éco-entreprise Québec, EEQ.
Yes. So basically we'll never, circular materials will never be in Quebec. It's always going to be EEQ, but you'll see a lot of collaboration and partnerships between the two organizations. And often at national panels, you see both organizations participating together. So great partnership and collaboration taking place.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments, Council? Could you make it plastic one more time, a little clearer for me? I'm older now. Now, like say plastic, it comes in a mustard jar and it's plastic. So does that go in recycle?
If it's empty, yes. Yep.
So do people wash them out or what, or they go dirty or what are the?
Basically, all you need to do is like rinse them out, just to a little bit, so they're not so dirty, and you can place it in your recycling.
Right. Because that's what I do now. I recycle a lot and I wash them all out, but I thought I'd get rid of that if you didn't take it, but no, that's great. That cleared that up for me. So is anyone else? Oh, Councilor Carr?
Thank you, Richard. I know in the past, when I look at the bottom of the material that's recycled, it often has a number inside of the recycling symbol. Does that come into play anymore? Is that something we can use as kind of a guide if it's a 3 or a 5, or is that not necessarily linked to this?
Yeah, Sal, do you want to chime in there?
Yeah, the numbers still apply. For example, number 1 and 2 is the recycling. I do believe the 3 and 4, or is it 6, that is flexible plastic. I know the guys in Faro can probably help me out here. And I think the rigid plastic number 5. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, basically anything with a number on it is recycled.
Yeah.
Good.
There you go. Well said.
I like that, yeah.
Simple.
Thank
Symbol,
you.
yeah. Never thought about it that way.
Thank you.
Things that are not recyclable would be like kids' toys and things like that. If they are put in the recycle bin, we will take them because people are, they're trying to recycle and do the right thing, so we would never reject anything that appears like plastic or appears like it should be recycled.
Right, perfect.
Thank you.
Now, the lids, they lock on pretty good, do they? Because I'm thinking about rain and windy days and storms, snowing and things.
Yeah, if you look at the bins that the area that amalgamated into your site had, they would have had blue bins and gray bins with covers. We went with a slightly different bin that's got a little bit more capacity. It's a little taller, but the bins do snap on very tight. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, Councilor Kirkbride?
Thank you, worship. Speaking about those lids, are the lids actually attached to the box or, and I know it could be a pain, but on a windy day, are the lids gonna be put down on the boxes? If not, they're gonna blow all over people's neighborhoods.
Generally, they'll be, once they're taken off, they'll be set down on the ground. The containers will be set back on top of them. Don't necessarily snap them right back on top, but they'll be, the empty containers will be set on top of them to eliminate that.
Thanks, Tim.
Jeff.
Now,
We do.
What would happen if someone come along and stole the bins? What do you do then?
You can call us and we would go and replace the bins. If it's a chronic problem at a site, then it wouldn't continue. But if a set of bins does go missing, then we have extra sets here at the Faro office in Fredericton. The only caveat to that would be is they'd be expected to come here to get their replacement bins.
I know, because we have a military in the PMQs, the military housing, they get posted out a lot. And a lot of times they would take the bins with them. So that's what I was just wondering.
Yep.
Okay.
Generally, what we do with that is the person would tell us they moved in, there was no bin, we write that on and it's fine, no issue. So no concern there at all.
Perfect. Any other questions, Councilor? Well, I'd like to thank you guys and girls for all the information we just received. That kind of helps us out a little bit too, because we'll be getting questions from people, but we can't wait for the opening and to get this started, and we're kind of excited too, so thank you.
Your worship, we're very excited about this rollout and to bring recycling to your community. And perhaps a closing word would be that it's important to refer your residents to the circular materials webpage, right? And also to Faro if it's about, oh, I'm missing a bin, or oh, miscollection, etc. Like, so we're here to support you. We understand your residents will still, it's a habit that they'll go to you. But the quicker, you kind of pass them on, and so they can come to our page, and this is where it's our responsibility to guide them and provide that education and that support.
That's even better.
All right.
Thank you, Marcel, Nadine, and Daniel. Thank you so much today.
Thank you. Have a great meeting. We'll leave you if it's okay.
Okay,
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
bye. Any comments or questions now that you're not listening to us?
Well, glad we're gonna have at least a lid on the car.
Yeah, I think most of my concerns have been met, so, because I'm anti-curbside, and I don't mind saying it, but.
I wish they had a really, like, we do our garbage cans.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought when I seen it out here.
I saw the presentation, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, they use those bins, your worship, for some of the multi-units and the schools, depending on the size, but as far as them being individual residential, they're a little bit more costly, I'll say, and so that's why they're not going there. But we have tried to listen to all the concerns, and they've been pretty receptive, so you know, that's been good.
Yeah, so looks positive, and a lot of people that were pro recycling curbside are gonna be happy. That's great. Okay, we'll move on to 3B, the library needs assessed. With Kristen's here with her gang, so she's got backup, so the floor is yours.
I'm not gonna see myself on screen too. Great. So before I get into the library need analysis, I wanted to talk a little bit about the library in use. I know that Councillor Daw presents our reports from boards, but I also just thought as a general snapshot, I do have the statistics from last fiscal year and then just a little bit about what we're doing. So do I switch the slides or does someone switch that?
There is a little.
You have it right there in front of you?
No, there's a little, it might be off, so,
It's not. That is long.
okay, perfect. And
opposite?
down is on that.
Okay.
Don't ask me why.
We do help people with technology. So last year, we have those numbers now, and I did look at, we had over 10,000 members. So I think that just over 7,000 of those are from the Oromocto Lincoln area. So 5,500 are from Oromocto postal codes, 1,600 are from the Lincoln area. I know that that's a number that people were interested in before, so I wanted to see that broken down. And then these are all active members. If you have a library card and you haven't used it in 4 years, it gets purged from the system. And we also have a lot of military members who come to us and remove their accounts once they're leaving. So we assume that those are being used. For information questions, we had almost 7,900. What we consider information questions are those that involve us using some kind of resource. So if someone's coming for directions or can I use the bathroom or what are your hours, those are not information questions. These are things that we're looking up. Things like how do I attach something to an email? How do I get my blood work scheduled now is something that we have to do, or book your own x-ray. Something like a research project where kids are asking us questions, people are coming in for new authors to read, that kind of thing. So those are our actual interactions that we have. And then for checkouts, we have 70,764. Those aren't all books. Those include magazines, DVDs. We have instruments that we lend. We have board games. We have a number of different recreation objects. Trying to get people to borrow the slackline more. And then we also have ebooks in there as well from the Oromocto card registrants. Then we had 312 programs last year. I'll talk a little bit more about programs in particular, but that's a lot coming back from, we're back from COVID. That's yay. And then that's 4,768 participants. That's all ages, and those were all offered for free. Another thing is a number of people coming to the library to use the internet. So we have our 4 public access computers that we track how many times those get used, but then for people that are signing into our Wi-Fi, we're looking at not how many times they're signing on, but how many different people are doing it. So those kids that are coming at lunch hour and signing on, that doesn't count that counts as one person. That kid keeps coming back. So down is up. So for
Definitely. Yeah, Mayor, if you don't mind, I just have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
Back to the numbers. Numbers is my thing. I love numbers. Numbers are also important though to put into context. So just a raw number tells a story, but it doesn't necessarily speak the entire narrative. So my question is, I know it's not a town library, it's a regional library. So what is the overall? So when you look at 10,000 members, that would be out of a population catchment area of how many?
So that catchment area, I'm not sure, don't get the latest staff can numbers.
I could probably answer that one. That's, I mean, there are a few outliers, I know, because I got the numbers, but generally speaking, that's about 25,000.
Good. And then my follow-up question, and again, it might be for you, it might be for Doug. Actually, I think it's more for you, Kristen, would be 5,500 plus the Lincoln. I mean, we're at 7,100 people who are members of the library within our municipality. That's 3/4. So that's amazing. So what I wonder is, so the school groups who come in, which is important. Regardless of where they come from in the region, if they come to school here, does their postal get attached to like their school?
No.
I'm just trying to think, like 6-year-old probably not another postal.
Yeah, so they don't get attached to school. What happens is if we're not meeting the parents, they get slip sent home that requires them to give permission and provide their address and sign off. So we are getting their actual postal codes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And if I can too on that number, just so the group's aware, Lincoln is the parish of Lincoln in those numbers, so it's not just Oromocto, it also includes what most people know is Wasis and part of Russia Gornish too. So that is why that number is high, because when she sent that to me, I thought, holy crap, you mean there's like 75% of the people in town have a library card, which I thought was great, but when you look at a lot of those come from now Sunbury York South community as well, so but still very high.
Yeah, for me, it was just important to know that when I'm doing the division, you're giving me the numerator, I want to know what the denominator was, but divided by.
Yeah.
So if you're giving me 10,000 or 25,000, that's a much better percentage for you than divided by 100,000.
Yeah.
So now that puts it into context.
Yeah, for sure. So some of the programs that we're offering for all different age groups, for the early literacy programs, those are for newborns to preschoolers. So those are focused on teaching necessary skills for literacy. So for reading, and also what we're doing there is modeling things for parents and guardians in helping with those early literacy skills. Also, we are providing story times and things for kids that we're trying to make that learning sneaky and fun. So they're learning the skills, but they're having fun doing it because we're fostering that lifelong love of literacy. Then we are doing a number of programs for school-aged kids. So those are not just class visits, but these are after-school programs that we do and also weekend to evening. So for those, we bring in a lot of community partners, which I listed some of those there. And we also just have some ongoing ones like journaling and our Friday funds. For adults, we have programs that are really focused on sharing, on learning new skills, on socializing, because I know that isolation is one of the concerns that we've talked about recently. So we do, for example, have those ones that I've listed there are routine monthly programs, book clubs, journaling, coffee hour. For art workshops, we do something different every Saturday. just anecdotally last month, we offered a needle felting workshop. And we had a number of people who were felting and had said that they'd heard about needle felting from the Beaverbrook Art Gallery and from the New Brunswick College of Crafting and Design. And they'd heard about their workshops, but all of them were over $100. Ours are free. We offered them for a $50 program budget, and we included all of the supplies. And then at the end of 2 hours, because they stayed and they talked longer, one of the women had to go, and she said that she was really glad that she came because she didn't want to be alone on her birthday. I'm like, oh, so there's the socializing aspect too. Then we have a lot of our adult programs we do in the evenings that we're open, as well as on Saturdays. For special events, we have things seasonally. We do like our book launches and our gallery launches with local artists and authors. We have our March break push on and all of those things. I put puppet shows on there and it looks really kind of innocuous, but they're actually a big cultural event. So we have our puppet shows bring in almost 100 people. I've had parents come up to me when they come in and they're like, so it's just like with puppets. And I'm just kind of, well, wait for it. It's a comedy hour. And the kids are all laughing, they're all just kind of like gasping, they're all really into it. And then you know how when a movie comes out and the books get really popular? So when we do a puppet show, the books get really popular. And so when we did like Creepy Carrots and everyone started reading Peter Reynolds, then I think that that's important for kids to see that there is that kind of culture and entertainment without just having a screen. So.
Christian, you said you do the puppet shows and you can draw 100 people. Where in the name of time do you put them in that library?
So when we have that many people, we have to use the backspace in between action and fiction because that's the biggest open area. And
you must have to push those other things out of the way, the chairs and the desks and all
we
those.
move all the furniture and then we have some of the cabinets are on wheels, so we roll them out of the way. And there's maybe a few seats around the perimeter for adults to sit in and the kids just all gathering on the floor.
So this is one of the reasons that the ask is to have a bigger space and new facilities so you can accommodate those and potentially more people.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So what does a day in the library look like? We do come to work before we're open to the public. So we're there for just over an hour before we open to everyone else. And what we're doing in that time is if we're all there together, if we're not split shift to be able to cover evenings, then we're doing our staff meetings and our trainings. We are also finding books that we have to put in the mail. So we are actually sending material to the 62 other libraries, and that's how the library card gives you access to over 2 million things. So that's important for Oromocto residents, but it's also just for the system as a whole. That's how, that's just how we don't have to house so many things, but we're able to access so many things. So that is actually a fun little treasure hunt. And then we do typically 6 Canada Post bins a day. In our workroom, we're laying all those out for all of those libraries and we're getting them into the mail. And then we have probably about 6 of the big Midland bins. We do Midland with Fredericton instead of Canada Post. So mail is a big part of our morning. Then we're also setting up any of the morning programs that we have, because once we open to the public, then we open to Canada Post and they give us more mail. We get 6 in from the rest of the province, but we also have all of the early literacy programs that I talked about. And then the local elementary schools start to visit. And we're helping grade 4s and 5s, especially right now, because the libraries could be Then in the afternoon, we do our kindergarten class visits. We visit with the 9 Assiniboine and Gesner classes come for story time. We do all of our after school programming and any of the regular outreach that we have set up, which is like Meaningful Connections, OFN, Head Start. And then we do the adult programs. And
How many staff are on during the day, like when you're running these programs and open to the public?
so when we're full staffed, it's all 5 of us together. When we split it, then there's 3 people on a shift and 2 people on a shift. As that's going on, we're also just open and doing the things that we need to do. So all day, every day, and as needed, we're doing the things that you probably think a 1960s library was doing, which is checking in and checking out all of our materials. We're answering all of those information questions. People are coming in and using the computers and asking us how. We do a lot of printing. Right now, we're doing a lot of people's, there seems to be like a run on newcomers' passports. We've been doing a lot of scanning of passports, as well as return labels. They're always the thing. But people are coming in for photocopying now that Shoppers Drug Mart doesn't do their print services anymore. Then the NFRC and the library are the 2 places where people can go without going to Fredericton. And we're also helping out homeschoolers, teachers, and people who are in daycares in doing collection deposits. So getting together upwards of 50 books for them on a topic and just helping them with their different units. We have all of our program preparation and promotion that we do during the day. And then we have a lot of things that we just put out on tables because we want people to engage in the space while they're there. So we have tabletop games for literacy learning. We have things for the after schoolers who don't want to be in the programs to be able to be at least somewhat engaged with, be it coloring or some kind of craft activity. So we're always replenishing and doing this as well. We want people to stay there for a while. We want them to like it. And then we're doing our collections maintenance, which again is the 1960s library of shelving. We still have the old trolleys. So still doing that. So I guess just before I get into how we fit into the town of Oromocto's vision for a sustainable community, I will just say off the top of my head in the use of the space, some of the things that people have wanted to use the library for in like the last month. So we have tutors coming in who would like to tutor with students. We've had families come in to have supervised social work visits in a public place. We've had people come in to have exams proctored by me because they're doing their exams remotely. People who have needed the Wi-Fi to be able to do health insurance meetings virtually. People who've been taking classes. People who've used it to do job reviews. We've had teens come in for a safe space during a medical emergency. We've had teens coming in because they weren't scheduled for a class and there wasn't another place in the cold where they could go. So it's a big catchment umbrella. And those are, if you come in and you see it's very quiet, it's also a roller coaster. So you might come in and there's a grade 4 class who's coming in as the preschool story time is letting out and the front is completely jammed. You might come in and it's crickets, and that's when we're trying to catch up on doing our shelving and planning our programs. So then, yeah, it's a real ebb and flow. But for Oromocto's sustainable community strategy, for the vision of every citizen fully engaging with the community, I would say that we're doing this for a diverse membership. We have the infants to the seniors coming in for all of our program services, as well as just the resources that we have for free. And then we're doing it in a converted grocery warehouse. So being able to do that in that space, the possibility of having a library that is created as a library from scratch, it's just very exciting. Yeah, just think of what we can do with a modern designated library. So for the first one, which is the economic pillar, so that, I mean, that's where some of that tech help comes in. So providing the computer access for people who are looking for and applying for jobs and helping them do that. Providing the opportunities for people to get job skills is one that you might not think of. We right now have 12 volunteers. A lot of them are youth, and this is their first time getting job skills where they haven't been in the workplace yet. So they're coming weekly, they're helping us with tasks, they're using me as a reference. And we also are currently working with Inclusion New Brunswick to have someone come in, do a co-op and get those job skills as well. And we do have 2 routine volunteers from CoTech. So we have those community partnerships to help with those skills. The library is one of the social supports that people look for in seeing if the community is a desirable place to live. So people considering Oromocto for the postings, looking at the MFRC and the library and what are those like? I think that a modern library space in the town can provide something that the town can take pride in, can provide that strong signal that the community is thriving and that it's a great place to live. The next one is environmental. We do partner with a lot of organizations for our information programs as well as our children's programs, including Nature NB, Science East. They come in, they use the space. We try to set them up either in the Miramichi room or in the back of the library. And then we also have programs that I call environmental literacy. So you were talking about recycling. We've had that presentation. We did that presentation with 50+. Brad James came from the Fredericton Solid Waste, and he went through my recycle in front of everybody. So I brought it in. He said it was the cleanest recycle he's ever seen. And he let them know these are the kinds of things that you can recycle. These are the kinds of things that you can't. Hosting those kinds of information sessions is one opportunity. Another is just having the children's environmental literacy programs. It's kind of a passion project for me in particular. I find it important to have these programs about stewardship and conservation in a way that doesn't create anxiety in them and instead teaches them to have a little bit of hope and what kind of small things that they can do. So we do a lot of those programs. And then we also have resources. So we have like energy meters that people can sign out and find out what their wall works are doing, which is just those cords that you keep plugged into the wall. You're doing something, and the meter will tell you. And then for social, the library is a community hub. So everyone's welcome, regardless of your social status, your economic status. We're trying to create that inclusive safe space. And that's where the biggest shift in libraries has been over time is the use of that space. So it's still free. And I will say that it's the only place where people can go and find heat, air conditioning, Wi-Fi, a spot to sit for a while and not have to spend money. So that's important, especially in the summer where they're getting hotter. So we do what we can in the current space, but it was designated to be a house of bookshelves. It's not really got a lot of seating space for people. So an expanded modern library space would need to think of how best to meet the needs of these people to be able to gather for clubs, for different events, for the different programs that they want, and to be able to be adaptable to meet those needs. And then culture. I find that this is one of the easier ones to explain to people because they think of library and culture because of local authors, local artists. because literacy is essentially culture. So it's also a place for people to be able to share ideas, and their culture. We had a multilingual story time where we had, someone from OFN who was reading in a holistic way, Francophone reading in French, ASL for American Sign Language, German because of the amount of war guides that we have here, Chinese, and then for the next one, I would invite someone from India. So there's a lot of culture in Oromocto, and it's nice to put that under one roof and share it. We also house a special military collection and a local food collection. And then the last one for governance. So I would say that we do provide an opportunity for citizens to develop leadership and civic responsibility, especially with the number of volunteers that we do have. And the number of them who say that they've originally applied because they want to take part in their community and they want to do something for the community. I would also say it's another place where important discussions can happen with governance. So I had a book club last night. And somebody read the 20 lessons from tyranny. And that invited a whole discussion. And the library is impartial. The discussions need to happen in a place where we can facilitate them. And our role is just to make sure that everyone's being respectful as they share and they talk. So it was a good discussion. But I got kind of heated, so.
Was Trump involved in that?
I mean, how could you avoid it, right? Like, yeah, it
Figured.
was. So Sarah's gonna talk about the roles and responsibilities. Hi, I'm Sarah Gilpel. I'm the regional director for the York Library region. So Fainted is one of my 14 libraries that I look after. And I always like to take the opportunity anytime I get to speak to a council, just to refresh on the roles and responsibilities and how public library partnership works, because not everybody is familiar. If you've been around for a while, you may know, but newer folks may not. So basically, public libraries are offered in partnership in the province. So there's the New Brunswick Public Library Service. We're part of the Department of Post-Secondary Education, Training and Labor. We call ourselves PEDAL for short. And we are responsible for the staffing. So we pay for the 5 full-time staff that are at Oromocto. We purchase all of the collections, aside from those that are donations or local purchases. We manage the library operations and look after library development. So really the running of the library itself. The town of Oromocto is our important partner, and you're responsible for the library facility and its maintenance. Keeping that old grocery store running. I know there's been a lot of work put into it over the last number of years. Purchasing of the furniture and equipment, and offering an operating budget so that Kristen can offer an amazing needle felting program for $50, computers, and any expenses related to the board. And you also appoint the library board. And the library board has an important role to play as well to rarely represent the community, the folks who are using the library, and maybe those who aren't using the library, and to know why they might not be. So they're really a liaison between the community, yourselves. They have an oversight responsibility with the library budget. So the budget that you accord that Kristen looks after, they make sure that it's being spent properly. They maintain a charitable status so that folks can make donations to the library can issue a tax receipt, which is great. They do some fundraising, recruit board members, and of course, support the library staff. So an easy way that I like to use is anything that moves around. So the staff move around and the collections move around, that's paid for by the province. The things that stay put, so the building, the furniture, the computers, that's paid for by the municipality. Kind of just a nice separation there. And so we've been kind of talking around the new public library, what that's going to look like. We've had some really great discussions with the town and some consultations last year. And we kind of wanted to give you a little bit of what is in our brains. Kristen and I have been in public libraries for a long time. We've visited lots of other public libraries. I've been involved in a large number of library projects across the province in my 20 years. So just sort of what's our vision. So I think you're starting to see a little pieces of that as Kristen's gone through. But these are kind of the keywords that we're looking at when we look at what do we want it to look and feel like? We want it to be adaptable because we know that this is going to be our building for a significant amount of time. So we want to build it in a way that we can adapt to changing technologies, to what new trends might be over the coming years. We want it to be inviting. So as Kristen has mentioned, it's a place where people want to come and hang out. We want folks to be there. So we want them to feel welcome in our space. We want it to feel spacious. So can get around that in a few ways, but just to not feel cramped and crowded. Again, airy, so just a nice welcoming space. It obviously needs to be functional. If nothing else, library folks, we are very practical and we need everything to have about 3 functions. So it needs to be absolutely functional and it needs to be comfortable. It needs to be comfortable for the public coming in, and it also needs to be comfortable for staff. So I can tell you that the current space is not the most ergonomic of workspaces. So that's important for me to be looking after my staff to make sure that we avoid potential injuries and that kind of stuff. And we want to include space for everyone. And as Kristen has mentioned, when we're serving infants to seniors, that's tough to make one space fit all of these folks. So these are the kind of people that we're keeping in our mind as we're thinking about this space and as we want to design this space. So the preschoolers, so important. This library is so busy with those preschool programs, teens. It is rare to have a library that has as many teens in the building as Oromocto. I would say they're a leader in our region and probably across the province of teens who actually come in and use this space. That's a bit of a unicorn, I will say. So kudos to Kristen and her team for that. So we need to have some space where they feel welcome. They're not being treated like babies. They're maybe not totally ready for the adult stuff. Older adults, we know that our populations are aging, so we need to have accessible, safe spaces for older adults. Computer use is not going away. It continues to stay very high and strong, so we need to have good use for that. Families. Oromocto is a young community. There's a lot of families here. So we need to have space that's welcoming for everyone. And people come and stay and they hang out for a number of hours. So we need to have space for that. Again, we need to have great space for staff so that they can be comfortable and work efficiently. There's a lot of community groups that would love to use the library space. I think that the Miramichi room is used very frequently. So having a space for folks to meet, to have their, trainings and information sessions and all of that is important. Students and researchers, so Kristen was talking about tutoring and people doing job interviews and things like that. So having a quiet space, so a small study room or a small meeting room, that's going to help with meeting the needs of those folks. So trying to balance all of these needs as we look at the design for the new space. Which leads us into some of the important elements. So an activity room that would replace the Miramichi room. Shelving. So there is shelving in the existing library, but I do not want to take it with us into the new library. We want to have new, modern steel shelving that's going to last for another 50 years. That's adjustable, that we can make work with the space, and we're not afraid that it's going to collapse on us. I mentioned meeting and study rooms, workable staff space, so space where staff can actually work more efficiently. Seating, so there's definitely a lack of seating for people to just come in and be comfortable in the space. Some storage, hopefully the new space will not include a creepy basement. Still need to have some storage and a way to incorporate technology. So those public computers are really popular, but we also need just lots of plugins for people to bring their own devices and charge their phone and plug in their laptop, that kind of thing. And then kind of the boring essentials. We need washrooms, we need an electrical room, all that kind of stuff that just has to be in a library. Now Chris is gonna tell you a little more about the food board. Because we've been hoping for this for a while, we've had a chance to browse a lot of pictures, and I put together just a few that I thought showed really good practices. So right here, this one, this is demonstrating just some bright, clear sight lines. Brightness is one of the things that I love about the current space. Those high ceilings, it's nice and bright. It has an open and airy feel, and that's always appreciated. It's also, these are adaptable spaces. So spaces that allow for the collection of books, for other objects that the library might want to lend, but also having spaces for people. So in this, they're not tucked away, they're not separated, but actually they work well with each other. And then also from here, you can see there is staff space there, and it is centrally located. And I think that that's important to make everything kind of feel like a hub and to be involved in what's going on in the library. This is some children's space. So what we want is an inspiring children's area, something that sparks the imagination and welcomes people to stay and explore, and that makes learning fun. So these spaces take into account, there's some children who prefer to have a lot of stimulus, a lot of things going on visually. There's others who don't want that. And so just in these two photos, you can see there's some nooks. So some little nooks, and then also some bright and imaginative space. Love that tree goes up there. It's great. And then this one is also showing the space for gathering and study. So here you can kind of imagine people with their own technologies. There's some comfortable lounging. You can have people who would feel comfortable in group versus someone who just wants to come in and sit individually. And these spaces aren't separated out as well, but they're just very well integrated into the overall layout. And that was just which board. So yeah, I think that it's an exciting time right now to think about what the space could look like, how it could be used, and how we can meet the different needs and wants. And yeah, I think we're just happy to be included as the project goes forward and be kept in the loop on how things go. And we're just really excited to have the opportunity to plan a new library space. Yes. Lovely. I've been in this job for 13 years, and we've been time limited since day one that I started. So, and I know others have been time limited for longer. So very excited. And I think anything that we can do, or that the support from the board, they're all very keen. So however we can help move things along, or whatever you need from us, we're happy to help.
Any questions or comments, Councilor? Councilor Bell?
Thank you. One comment on when you talked about the cultural aspects that you do, I made a quick note that it's interesting your comment and cultural, in particular in Oromocto, because there's a lot of people don't see that culture. They don't realize what diverse it is. And myself included, I only see it more now because of the other things that I'm doing. And the furniture and shelving you talked about, that's going to be movable, some of it. You'd like it to be movable so that the spaces could open up, or are they going to be stationary?
Oh, yeah, I think it will depend on what it is. So like most of the shelving is stationary because you need to secure it to the wall so it doesn't fall over. But yeah, having furniture it's hard to find a balance of furniture that is sturdy enough to hold up to public use, but that you can also move around. So it's a tough balance to find, and we sometimes find some really great lines of products, and then everybody kind of goes for those ones, but you kind of need a balance of, I mean, especially in the children's area, you need stuff that can easily be moved around.
And just one last thing, because I was on a Zoom call just recently with the Community Development Committee that I sit on, one of the ones that I'm just sitting here, very much connected. Because we just recently are talking about the social connectors, especially the seniors who don't have. And anybody to interact with, no family members or anything like that. And the mental illness. One of the things, the isolation has caused that so much, so it all interconnects and we don't realize it until we're actually put in front of it.
I just recently did a training on helping seniors with technology and with empathy, knowing that a lot of them, it's new, it's scary. Family members who are remote have maybe put it in front of them conditionally, saying like, you either move with us or you learn this, and those kinds of things. And so more and more, I'd say we're seeing that in library as services go to online only. And as there's fewer places for them.
Good job.
Any other questions or comments, council? We'll be making sure that you will be, once we get the details on the new, the wellness center, you guys will definitely be involved in it.
And just one other little thing in the presentation. We have new logos, so you might want to check with Jackie and use our new logos.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you. Christian and your gang of Smarties. All right. We move down to administration. We'll go to 4A, the anniversary park security office. Jackie, John has that.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council. Included in your package was a request for decision regarding the hiring again for the anniversary park area. I just wanted to present a few options. I know we've had this budgeted, but I'm always trying to be a little bit frugal with these things, so I've created some options there. I also spoke with the gentleman who oversees our security, and we both had a discussion how there was some evenings that there was absolutely no one at the parks or very little interaction that the security guards had with the public. So I thought there might be some opportunities for us to kind of shave that budget down. There are 3 options there, and I just wanted to see what the council's directive would be in regards to this.
Council, any questions or comments? Councilor Daw?
Yeah, definitely for option 1 isn't even on the table as far as I'm concerned, because I think we need something. How many years have we had the security there now? 3 years, at least.
I'm not, I would say probably 4 years.
4?
Yeah, I'm guessing 4.
And I'm not sure that I even like lowering the numbers, and the only reason I say that, Jackie, is it's been effective. And if you take something away, it's not long before the public learns about it and they may go back to their same antics. And if it's in the budget and it's something that we recognize as being needed in that area and our area as well, not just Anniversary Park, then I would like to see it stay.
Deputy Mayor?
I concur wholeheartedly. I sat through a RCMP consultation session last night, and one of the things that they highlighted too was prevention. And for me, for residents that were deeply affected by some of the things that had gone on years ago, this is that layer of prevention and proactiveness that I believe is really important. Presence is a huge deterrent. We had this in the budget for a reason. I really believe that we need to go ahead with the expenditures for which we had put in, and I understand the motivation of trying to save money. I don't think this is an area to save money. So I would not support any option other than staying with the status quo. And I'm sorry, I didn't want to mention that that is also the opinion of Councillor Murdoch, who was not able to be here today.
I can understand your point across the table. Deputy Mayor, go ahead. I have a question, I guess, too. If we were to choose option 2, we noticed it was not effective. Is there an option partway through to go back up? Whereas it's been budgeted for the full amount. Partway through, we said, why? It's not as effective as we want it to be, and we're looking to return. Is that an option?
Yes, I believe that's an option. What I was going to discuss with the company is to try kind of rotating when we might do those dates. For example, you know, we would look at maybe going Thursday to Sunday and see if we had any incidents on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays. Or perhaps, when it's still light at 8 o'clock, that we don't start at 8, we would start at 9 on when it's darker. Those kind of scenarios, and then monitor to see if, you know, yes, we heard a lot of stuff Monday nights, maybe not Tuesday, or that kind of thing.
The reason I ask is I don't know all the background, but I know the gist of it, I guess, and I am supportive of option 2 in the sense that we went from none to full, we don't know where the happy is. So we went from no, I don't know if it was no, but we went from reduced, at least considerably reduced to the full of what we have now. I'll call what we have now full. We don't know where the right spot is, and without testing for the right spot, we could be dumping $68,000 more. We might only, maybe we'll find out we were wrong, we need the full. But I think with anything, you need to know, any process you go through, you find out what you really need by doing it. And we haven't really tested that. We've gone whole hog, maybe we could go 80% hog. That's probably not the right term for it, but I would be supportive of number 2. With what I'm hearing is that there's an option, perhaps if it's not effective, the money has been budgeted, it is there waiting. I'd rather be money on the table later if we didn't need it, maybe directed towards something else. I'd be happy if it doesn't need to be bumped back up. Obviously, the goal would be to have none, but I feel like number 2 is the right choice, that we don't know where the happy is right now. And if there's an opportunity to save that much money and put it towards something else, God knows there's always something that comes up later in the year we need an extra $8,000 for. Maybe that's where we go. So my 2 cents on that one, I could be supportive of option 2.
Councillor Kirkbride?
Thank you, Worship. Just for some clarity, is the security, and I just need a reminder, is it only at Anniversary Park, or is it at like Deer Park and Hazen Park? Or is there a spot in Lincoln that be in Lincoln and in Ward 4 that should be looked at as well? I don't know if we have any parks out in Ward 4. Or if we're getting parks out of Ward 4, because I mean, they are one of our wards. Sooner or later, we should be looking at that if there is an area up there for our residents of Ward 4. So are the other parks involved with this as well?
There's a roving security, so what they will do is they will go through Deer Park, see and they go down there and down towards the waterfront. But that's not our focus area. Our focus area is Anniversary.
So if there was a cut, the cuts also be happening for Deer Park and Hazen Park.
That's correct. It's the same gentleman or
I
person.
will be voting for no change whatsoever.
What about Thatch Road? I mean, there's a park there.
Well.
Councillor Carr, you can make it.
Thank you, Worship. I thought about this and thank you for mentioning, thinking of Ward 4 for parks. That road, like we've talked about before, is an interesting one because it's a mix of the federal ground, provincial ground, and private ground.
That's the issue.
So we get into, I would love to see it, and there are issues there.
Me
And
too.
the RCMP are aware there are issues there. Unfortunately, sometimes it's just over the invisible line and it's on private property, which you're getting allowed to be used. Sometimes it happens on the other piece of public ground, which is a picnic table, and somebody allows us to use. Sometimes it's on the public roadway, and sometimes it's on the federal road. So it's a messy spot, but I appreciate
It's confusing.
I appreciate the thought, and I would love to see it. I think a lot of residents down here would too, and people that use the area. But I wonder if it's better served with our CMP or
I think
that type of.
if I can, your worship, one other thing that for us too, that we're always trying to weigh in back in our meetings with our CMP is I'm really trying to push them to be more proactive. Folks, you pay $4 million for policing, right? So you have to be aware that I'm trying to push them to do policing proactively. That's another thing on the table. I feel like they've done a better job at that too. That doesn't mean that it's perfect. But that is something that's always on my mind when I'm trying to figure out to Councillor Carr's point about that sweet spot. But that's just from my perspective as I talk with Jackie about it, and certainly to Deputy Mayor's point, the budget is there to spend the money. I just don't know if we need to spend it, but we may need to spend it. And if that turns out to be the case, and we absolutely will. But I think that was the intention of option 2, and not to necessarily quote save money. But just to know whether or not we actually needed to spend that full, or could we just dip our toe in, see, because the best thing in the world is we don't have any issues. That would be perfect. But the other part is that I'm still continuing to push the RCMP and our folks to have a better presence in making those trips around at those times as well, because we pay a lot of money for that service. And you tell me there's something wrong in those areas, and it's my job to try to make sure that you're heard when it comes to the policing part. So been trying to do that, but certainly, hearing what people say, and that's why I want to bring it to everybody's decision, because obviously the democratic process is the majority wins, and that's perfectly okay for us as well.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I 100% understand that. But for as long as I've been around the table, anytime we talk about issues in which are happening in communities and we try to defer it to an RCMP issue, it is very difficult that way, because if you are having issues, there's kids destroying the gazebo, there's kids doing whatever, but they're on a mental health call at the time, they're not getting away from that mental health call. And to me, when I look at the numbers that you threw out, when I look at the budget for which we've allotted at proactive things for our community, it amounts to 0.69%. And to me, that 0.96% is well worth the investment of showing the community for which we believe it is important. These matters that potentially affect the community, either that have really has affected the community. And I think that investment that we've made has had a proactive approach in helping to mitigate some of these issues. I almost feel as though there was like two different things discussed at the same time. For me, it's about taking the money, spending it at the times in which you believe it's of the most benefit to do so. Because you talked about varying hours, and you vary the hours as you believe it's necessary. If we notice that, the group that we're really most concerned with are the little kids who have to be home by 8. Well, if you need to run your hours from 6 to 10 instead of 8 to 12, do it. I mean, I don't want to get down into the weeds of the operational part. That's what we hire you folks to do. But for me, it's the issue of the program that we have. And as a council, we have heard in the past issues at Anniversary, there have been issues at Hayes, and there have been issues in other places. And to me, that's invaluable, because that person that we have allotted for that kind of job, that's the only thing they have to do. They're not going to get called away for a traffic accident or a mental health call or any of that other thing. So, I stand by my original position that I believe that we should expend that, but the operations of it, we leave it to you to figure out. I do understand the point of the councillor across the table, but I'm still of the opinion that we need to go ahead. Thank you.
Does Jenny still lock it up now in the summers?
No, some are our staff.
Staff, okay. Oh, Councillor Von Richter?
Thank you, Worship. I think piggyback on what Councillor Carr said, and certainly understand the Deputy Mayor's opinion. I can get the best of both worlds with option 2. I mean, we try at a lower number. If we need the money, we spend it. It's not working. I mean, we're paying staff to come up with an option for us. They're managing their budgets diligently. They're the ones operating with security staff. If they say they need to spend $27,000, they spend $27,000. So I would support option 2 with the proviso that the staff has the ability to spend the full amount if they need it.
Council Carr.
Thank you, Richard. And I know the money's budgeted, and so I guess that was leading my question earlier about it's there, so if we need to spend it, we do, we don't. And I feel like I heard this in the past, but maybe not. Do we have, does the security personnel collect numbers for us nightly? So like, do we have numbers to go on here? Like, are they, you know, on July 3rd, I had 3 contacts, every, you know, if I look back,
Yeah, we have some.
every Friday, it's between 5 and 7 contacts. So, you know, like, so we do have some data. I would like to see, again, I still feel like I support option 2, but I would feel really good to know that it's data driven. So, you know, maybe if anniversary does start to drop off, Deer Park probably or waterfront trail area, maybe that's where we shift it. And I think that gets back to trusting the staff and knowing what data is coming in. I would feel better knowing that. I still feel like I support option 2, but again, because I know that there's an option to up the money to the full amount. But also knowing that it's not just being spent, just sending a security guard night after night, and hey, if it has an effect and the numbers aren't there anymore, maybe it does shift over more to deer. And if people start to drift back to anniversary bowl, so does our security detail. Just keep them moving. Eventually people get tired of bouncing around looking for the hot spot and they find a backyard somewhere or whatever, so. Just wasn't sure if there was data year over year. Okay.
Councilor Dodd.
So is the data since we began? Were they giving data or not the first year? Did they?
The first year they went with Bill, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, there was.
So-
Second, third?
There was data.
There was data. In the first year, there was no doubt, there was a lot of activity and we've seen over the years, the activity has dropped and that's probably due to preventatives type, you know, people got aware that there would be people around and so there's value to that. No, there's no dispute there from that perspective. And certainly we do every year try to tailor our hours and things just to try to hit those, what becomes an issue in any one given year. We've seen, you know, in one year it was about people staying there too late. And then there was a year where it was like tweens. So it was like 8 to 9 o'clock was the hot spot, right? You know, so it changes. And so we adapt to that too, in terms of what we try to task the security group to do. So, yeah.
Okay, and just follow up on that. So the kinds of activities that like you can never know whether it's going to be busy on a Monday or busy on a Wednesday, unless you have somebody sitting there. It just fluctuates, you just don't know. It's like insurance. You buy insurance policy, you pay it all your life and you die when you're 90, well, that's it. It's something like this, we just never know. And for me, the Deer Park, I know that there was a little activity at the Deer Park that we don't want our children seeing, even though they shouldn't be out. And to me, I agree with Deputy Mayor Mawini that the money is in the budget spent. We cut it back. I believe that it's going to be noticed and they're just going to run free will again. That's what I fear. Whether it's flexible, what months does it run? May to September?
Yeah, end of May, early June until the long weekend in September.
Yeah, so basically just shortly before they're out of school through the full summer.
Right.
Yeah,
Because when school is out,
that's when the activities.
that's when you,
The board,
but-
not all at the library.
but on the weekends before school's out, like in June, if we could just book them on the weekends.
That's exactly, or that's one.
And that's-
Other option was,
Yeah.
what I meant, that we could go weekends and not beginning, because in June it's still school.
We did that one time. We did that one time before, didn't
We
we?
started a little bit later last year, but it was still not to be. Yeah, it was sort of.
So what I'm hearing is to be flexible in not to reduce it so that it's so stagnant that it's only like whatever you run. It's all week in the summer, I'm sure, right? But leading up to that, it's not necessary maybe to have it all week, just on the weekends.
Believe me, if we had a clause when it's pouring down rain, right? They're not
They
gonna be
can
at the
still go
park.
in the woods and do
But,
their little deeds.
Once the staff is scheduled, though, we can't.
no, that's it. But I've seen staff there leave at 9 o'clock, and I know, so I waited, because they probably went to check the other parks.
Right.
Well, I followed him one day and he wasn't going to the park, he got on the highway and went to Fredericton, so.
Yeah.
And then I've seen a guy with his wife and his kid and the dog and he never got out of the car. And I seen a guy and I told him this guy here is a troublemaker and he's spinning up with a little thing, you should do something about it. He said, yeah, I will, and he walked over and he talked to the guy like he was his best friend, and the kid did the wheelies and ripped up the lawn, and he looked and I pointed at the guy and he just looked at me and got back in his car, and I said, there's only a few that would get out and walk the woods and go through with the flashlight. Like 2 years ago, we had a really good bunch that they were really on their. But last year was a little less danger because it was slow. But we have that money, so it's money that can be used, but I think it's just, we're trying to adjust it so it's being used instead of wasted, right? And that's some kind of agreement that you'd have to talk with them and try to work out a plan.
Without going into the same things that I've already said, I would like to see us proceed with what we had planned. Keep and make sure we get the data from this coming summer. So that when we get to the budgeting season this coming year, if the data suggests that perhaps next year that it is not as required, then we reevaluate at that time. Then you'll have that data for which Councillor Carr was talking about, and the data can speak volumes in terms of what you need. We may ultimately end up making the exact same decision that the data is not high volume. It could be a reason why it's not high volume. This could be because the whole idea of prevention, which is kind of what they highlighted in the RCMP presentation last night.
It could be a rainy year.
But you never know, like, that's what I'm talking about, the
Yeah.
insurance policy, just, But to be flexible.
Okay. So. We have, I mean, even the options 1, 2, or 3,
Pretty long.
yeah, they're intertwined, but, let's have a vote, whatever, let's start with 1, 2, and 3. We'll go around the table, Councilor Dodd.
I'm for option 3, that we budgeted, let's stick with it, and, if the data shows again this year that it has decreased, then I certainly can support looking at it next year.
So you're saying option 3?
Nope,
Yeah, 3.
same schedule on supervisors last year, option 3.
Option 3 status
I
quo.
thought I
Right.
read the right thing.
Okay. Deputy Mayor?
I'm gonna say option 3 status quo. I
Okay.
can only vote once, but I will say that if it does come to an official vote, that Councilor McGough would also be option 3.
It's not-
She told me to convey that, no, but we don't vote tonight, we vote
Right,
next Thursday.
right, yeah.
I vote option 3.
3? That's good. 3? 2? 2. Well, option 3 is the winner.
Bring forward a resolution then next Thursday.
Yeah.
With that option within the resolution.
Okay, there we go.
Thank you.
And now I'll call for an adjournment. Deputy Mayor Maroney, before he leaves. Seconder, Councilor Carr. Questions? All in favor? Commentary? Motion carried. All right. We'll wait a second or two and then we'll go to closed.